As I said before, we're going to do the review on Mega Man 3. This is my favorite game out of the series. It's got my favorite Robot Master, who happens to be Gemini Man, and that's one of my favorite stages as well. So this is one of those instances where the favorite character matches the favorite stage, and that's why this one's my favorite out of the bunch. I didn't say it in the second one, but from the second one on to the sixth one, there is a password system. There are passwords that are online that you can use to get a little further in the game. Have this, have that. There's a multitude of passwords that you just have to look up online. There's so many different ones. And also, every time that you clear a stage or that you do anything else of that matter, they usually give you a different password. On number 2, they just had red dots on the grid. On number 3, there are blue and red dots on the grid, so you have to use those different ones that are like that. On this one, E-tanks, again, are very important. They're scattered about, but they're not so hard that you can't find them. And also, if you kind of know where you're going and what you're doing, you shouldn't have to use too many E-tanks throughout the game, because I think the most I had at any one point was maybe 7 or 8, and I think I finished with like 4. So it wasn't, like I said, my run was not a very difficult one, thankfully. Sometimes you have a tough run, sometimes you don't. In this game, we'll go over the 8 Robot Masters, and then the 4 Doc Robot stages. I'll tell you what those are when we get there, and then the Wily stages. There's 2 different ways I've went through this game before. The first one starting with Magnet Man. I have since kind of switched that to Snake Man. Really, that's where I start, is either one. Either one I can start at, because it just kind of rolls that way. So I'll start with Snake Man, even though on the video I started with Magnet Man. Snake Man, the stage is not very difficult. There's maybe 1 or 2 parts that are a little bit hard that you gotta focus on, but nothing major. When you fight Snake Man, he'll run from right to left, and he'll periodically stop, jump, and shoot snakes. Best thing maybe to do is stay on the left hand side of the room until he starts coming over that way, and then jump over him, and just keep firing mostly, and he kind of does the same things. He'll stop periodically and shoot. Once you kill him, you get what's called the Search Snakes. Now you'll go to Gemini Man stage next. You'll run into Proto Man at least 4 times. Proto Man is Mega Man's brother, and was the first robot created by Dr. Light, which was Mega Man's creator. And so Proto Man is Mega Man's brother. This is the first time he really makes an appearance on the game. In Gemini Man stage, it's the only stage that he comes down in that he really doesn't do anything. He comes down on top of the end of the first area, and the whistle plays, and it just blows open. He leaves, and you continue on with the stage. Again, the stage is not awful. And then you fight Gemini Man. Now, Gemini Man, he splits into 2 of himself and goes in a pattern like this around the room. What you need to do is you need to use the Search Snakes on, both of them. After you destroy one of them, then the other one's by himself, and he just kind of goes back and forth across the room shooting. So not very difficult at all. You get the Gemini laser. The next one is Needle Man. You do have to watch out a little bit in these stages, in the Needle Man stages. It's not particularly difficult, but you can make things a lot harder on yourself. You know, if you go through a few times, you get it down, but there's parts where you can make it really more difficult than it really needs to be, and you just have to kind of know where you're going. Now, Needleman, you use the Gemini laser to kill him. I think it only takes a couple shots. He jumps up, straight up over in the corner of the room, and he fires needles, and also he uses the needles that are on his head. He'll turn and use those on you. He's got a pattern. I don't particularly know the pattern really that well. The thing is, you need to shoot him when the Gemini laser will get to him. If you do not hit him with the Gemini laser, the laser will go, it will hit off the walls, it will bank off the walls until either it runs out or until it hits him. You do not, because you can't fire another shot while the laser's going around the room. So you need to make sure that you hit him, or you need to make sure that you're good enough with your angles that it's going to bounce around the room and come back on and hit him, you know, that way, like I'm moving around, comes off the wall and hit him. So you got to be wary of that. The next one would be Magnet Man. He's weak to the needle cannon that you just got from Needleman. You don't have to kill him with the needle cannon. He's not that difficult to not kill with the needle cannon. I mean, you can kill him with the arm cannon as normal, and he's not that bad. This is one of those stages with the disappearing and reappearing blocks. And I think there's only 2 places there where it's kind of you have to watch and make sure, because I think there's only 2 places there where you can actually fall through the hole. This is one of the first times you will find Proto Man and he will fight. The best thing to just do is when he's running towards you, you'll hear the whistle, he'll drop down, he'll come from the left side of the screen. The best thing to do is just to fire a continuous stream of bullets. Then whenever he about halfway across the screen, he starts jumping up and down. You need to jump up and down and shoot with him until he starts just running again at the end of the screen and then runs back. That's the only way that you're going to get a lot of bullets in. He doesn't have a life bar. So after he takes enough damage, he disappears and a section of the stage opens. I always stand on the right-hand side of the room, opposite of him, wherever he's at, and shoot away whenever he's just straightened. And then whenever he starts jumping, I start jumping and shooting too. So that's the best way I can describe how to kill him. Kind of tough, kind of difficult too. Magnet Man, he'll run. And he'll do one of 2 things. Either he'll stop, he'll jump, and he'll shoot like 3 magnets that kind of come down in different places. They're not that hard to dodge. Or he'll do this thing where he stands there and he tries to pull you in. And you can't shoot him or anything during that time. You can't shoot him. The best thing that you can do is run away from him. My tactic is I stay the entire length of the room away from him if I can. That way, if he shoots the magnets, they'll come all the way over that way, and then they'll drop down. And I just run forward and dodge them. Usually, he'll jump over you. If he does the other thing, I just keep the control pad pressed away from him until I can turn and shoot him. So you get the magnet missile from him. So you go after Hardman next. Hardman stage, there's some traps in there that look like cans of something. The best thing to do is just to slide across them and just keep sliding whenever you see them. That way you don't get hit by anything. There's bees in level 2 that drop they're like almost like a honeycomb thing. They'll spawn 5 bees. So either you need to try to take the main bee out himself, or you need to take out the 5 bees whenever they're coming. And usually they're not in any area where you can take them out easily. So be careful of that. After going through the stage a couple times, it's not bad. You face Brakeman again. This time you have a couple of different raised platforms going up and coming down, like a little range. The best thing to do here, jump and shoot, jump and shoot, jump and shoot, and just keep moving. Keep moving and jumping and shooting. That's the best thing I can tell you to do on that part. The floor will break open, you go through that. You'll fight Hardman. Hardman shoots the hard knuckle. Sometimes he shoots one diagonally, and sometimes he shoots one across. He can shoot them both. He can shoot one. It's really kind of just a thing. The magnet missiles, you can hit him basically from anywhere in the room, because the magnet missiles will lock onto him and they'll hit him. When he goes up into the air, he's going to come down, and when he comes down, he's going to come down head first, and he's going to hit the ground. It's going to temporarily stop you. The best thing to do when you see him do that is to jump, because immediately, almost as soon as he comes out the ground, the first thing he's going to do is turn and fire. And if you're in the air just a little ways, he won't hit you. He won't be able to hit you whenever he comes off of that stun. He won't do it, because you'll still be stunned even if you're in the air, but it won't be as long as if you were on the ground. Plus, you won't take the hit. So it's not very hard. Like I said, the best thing to do is, like, when you're jumping, just start, fire the magnet missiles while you're jumping. That way, at least you get a couple of hits in, and not too bad. And you get the hard knuckle. This thing is slow. Its trajectory goes wherever you shoot it. It starts off slow. It still doesn't fly across the room that fast either. So you really have to be careful with this thing, because there's a couple enemies that are weak against it, but you really got to be careful, because this thing is slow. The next one that you take on is Top Man. Top Man stage is probably the easiest stage in the game. There's a part at the end where you have to jump on these tops that are spinning you around. The best thing to do is just jump, and be off. That's the best thing to do, because if you stop, they're just sling you off. When you get to Top Man, he's fairly easy. The only thing that he does is he'll fire 3 tops into the air. They'll converge on your spot, and they'll try to hit you. The best thing to do is just stand all the way over to the other side. Just dodge them, just like jump them. They'll all converge at one spot, so you should be able to dodge them. You're going to want to throw a hard knuckle before you dodge them, and then he's going to start spinning, and then he's going to come across. This is why I said the distance is the good thing. He's going to spin, and then he's going to come across the room. Now, when he spins and he's coming across, you need to jump over him, go to the other side of the room, and do the same thing. Turn around, fire hard knuckle, jump, dodge things. Because when he's spinning, you can't hit him. So you're going to have to hit him whenever he stops. He luckily doesn't take too many hard knuckles, and he dies, which, like I said, the hard knuckle is a slow weapon, and it's really, really slow, and it's really, really odd to use. Now you get the top spin from Top Man. You're going to hate this weapon. You are really going to hate this weapon. And there's only 3 instances I even use it in the game. And I hate this weapon. I hate it so bad. It's worse than the hard knuckle, if that's easy, if that's a possibility. And it is, because it's one of the weirdest ones, because you wouldn't think that you would have to use it this way, but you do. And as such, it's one of the oddest weapons in the game. So you'll go to Shadow Man next. I don't know if it's in this one or if it's in the Doc Robot one. There's a place where there are platforms to jump on, and if you do not jump on them in the correct order or in the speed that they think that you should jump, you're going to fall through and you're going to die. The best thing I found to do is the longest one. Use the rush jet and use it across through there. Now let me explain to you, since this is the first time I've said rush. For those who don't know and have never played the game, Rush is Mega Man's mechanical dog. He is a mechanical dog. He replaces the items from number 2. He can be the Rush Coil, which allows you to, he has a spring on his back, which allows you to jump up on him. And you can jump on him and come off of the coil and reach hard to reach items. The Rush Marine, which he turns into a submarine. You can use him in the water. And then there's the Rush Jet. He turns into a jet, you hop on top of him, and you can ride him throughout the stage. Rush is one of my favorite characters of the game. He is a red dog that's in the series. He's a little red dog that's on there. He becomes kind of a staple throughout most of the rest of the games, even though they change him on stuff that he does. He becomes a staple and a helper for Mega Man. The adapters that are on the game are by certain enemies. You'll defeat certain enemies, you'll get their weapon, and you'll get the adapter for whatever Rush adapter that they have. So they're not hidden or anything. You get them by defeating bosses in the order that you would defeat them. So, Rush also, when you're in the Rush Marine or on the Rush Jet, you can fire bullets. It's very, very helpful. You can fire bullets. So that helps a lot. But on one of those stages, I just use the jet. I shoot the bullets across the top of the screen as I'm going across. No problem. No problem whatsoever. But like I said, I don't know if that's that stage or the Dr. Robot stage. There's one of them. I'll get to the Dr. Robot stages here in a minute. I'm getting there. When you get to Shadow Man is very, very erratic. They say that there's a pattern to him. I've never gotten it down. He jumps, he slides, he shoots. He's very fast. He reminds me of Quick Man, but with more weapons, and he can shoot from an arm cannon. He can shoot the shadow blades out. He can slide. He can do all kinds of stuff. That's another thing Mega Man can do on this game. I forgot to mention that. Mega Man can now slide. And in different parts, it's essential. It's essential that you slide. Well, I told you to slide across stuff in the Hard Man stage, so I guess it was just taken that's what you did. That was a possibility. So yeah, there's a slide that you can use on the game. You have to use the top spin. The top spin spins you around, and you have to time your hits on the button, because you can use all of your top spin in one whack. So you barely hit the button to use the top spin. Otherwise, you use it all in one spin and you're dead. And you have to jump to use the spin. And that doesn't make it any better, because you have to fly into Shadow Man and use the top spin. So you have to just barely tap the button while you're jumping into him. It's kind of a pain. And you may have to try it a few times before you really get the top spin down, because it's a very, very odd weapon. It's probably one of the, if not the least liked weapon, in my opinion, on any of the Mega Man games. I mean, there's one that's a little bit later, but it's not even as bad as that one. There's one on number 5, but it's not even as bad as that. It's not even as bad as that. So, but that's how you kill him. There's Proto Man is in Shadow Man stage as well. It's just a basic platform that you fight him on again. So just do what you've been doing. The last one is Sparkman. Well, you get the Shadow Blade. The last enemy is Sparkman. Sparkman has, I think, some small elevator, like hopping thing that you have to do so that you don't flap into the spikes. You gotta do that part. I think there's a couple parts where you have to fall through and you have to dodge spikes as you're going down. Stage is a little bit difficult the first couple times you go through it, but you get used to it after a little bit. And I still have problems with the stage every so often, but not like I used to. And I can get through it a little bit better. When you go in there with him, there's a couple raised platforms. He usually comes over. He hits himself on the head with his hands, and then he throws like a spark blade, or like a spark that comes out. They're not hard to dodge, but the best thing to do is just pull out the Shadow Blade. And the Shadow Blade, the interesting thing about the Shadow Blade, it can be fired in 8 different directions. Whichever way you hold the controllers, whichever way it's going to fire. If you're holding it straight up, it'll shoot up. If you're holding it down, it'll shoot down. You're holding it to the left or right, it goes left or right. You're holding it diagonal, one of the 4 ways, it goes. It goes wherever you want it to go. Wherever you want that thing to go, it goes. So he's easier to hit that way because you can just kind of throw the blade wherever it hits him. Now, I talked about the Doc Robot stages. When you defeat the first 8 Robot Masters, 4 of the stages reopen. They're the 4 on the corners. They are Shadow Man, Spark Man, Gemini Man, and Needle Man. Those are the 4 stages that reopen. You have to go through these. These are called Doc Robot stages. All 4 stages are different than what they were the first time. Shadow Man's is a little bit harder, and they've added some spikes and things like that in there. Now, what you'll do basically in these stages is you'll fight 2 bosses. You'll fight one throughout the middle of the stage and then one through the end of the stage, and it's a heck of an endurance to try to get through these things. The stages are harder themselves, and then the Doc Robot thing is not much better. Now, the Doc Robot, he's a bigger robot than most of them that you've faced. He's kind of bigger and bulkier. He's a little bit harder to jump over and stuff, so you don't really want to play around with that. That being said, what he does is he gets Mega Man 2 Master powers. And you have to fight him 2 times a stage, so you have to fight him a total of 8 times. Which coincide with the 8 Robot Masters from Mega Man 2. You didn't think we'd go back and visit them, did you? But we do. So, I went through Shadow Man stage first. That's the one I did first. You run up on Woodman first. He does the same thing that Woodman does, the leaf shield and then the 4 leaves coming down. You just get the needle cannon and just, whenever he doesn't have that shield line, just unload. Just shoot the needle cannon like crazy. Not too bad. You want to try to make sure you kill him before he gets to the left-hand side of the room where you're at, or he's going to land on you. So, and you don't want to take that. You don't want to take that hit. I've always thought that it's better to take a hit from a Robot Master's weapon than to take a hit from a Robot Master jumping on top or jumping on you, or you colliding with them body to body, because I think it does more damage with that contact than it does with... I know with Doc Robot it definitely does more damage because he's a bigger robot. Heat Man is the second one. I'm not real sure what works against him, because I caught him in a glitch and I was able to kill him. It took probably a little bit longer than it needed to, but I killed him with the regular arm cannon. What he does is he does like he done the first time. He throws the 3 fireballs. He shoots across the room. You jump over him. He does the same thing again. Basically, you can kill him with the arm cannon as long as you just dodge those 3 fireballs, jump over him, and turn around and shoot him. I mean, that's basically how it goes. I mean, that's what I did with him. I didn't look up the weapon to kill him. I'm not real sure which weapon does kill him, to tell you the truth. I'm not real sure on that. Like I said, because I killed him with the arm cannon. I took on Sparkman stage next. Thing to note about this stage, there's one part, I don't know if it's in the first stage or the Doc Robot stage. You'll see some spikes in a chasm. The best thing to do to not hit those spikes is to go onto the far, almost maybe the far right of the platform that you're on, and slide. That will start you falling down. Now you'll have to maneuver a little bit. I think it's over to the left. And you'll have to maneuver a little bit to the left as you're dropping down the shaft there to the bottom floor. And you'll have to dodge those. We'll get to another part of the stage here in a minute. The first enemy you run up on is Metal Man. He basically does what he does on number 2. He stays on that one side of the room and just shoots metal blades. You're going to use the magnet missiles on him. They're going to lock onto him and just kill him. And not really bad. As you're going through the stage, and there's two ways to get through this. There are these machines that are, there's these things that are dropping down. I'm not real sure what they are. I guess they're crushed metal. I don't know. They look like meat or something, but I guess they're crushed metal. They can only drop two total. You don't want to get hit with these things. You get hit with these things, they do a lot of damage. But you got to get through this area, so you got to do one of two things. Either you go through and you do what I do, and you shoot the first ones either as they're coming down or when they hit, and then you just keep moving, or you can use the rush jet and go across through there and just try to shoot them and try to get through without getting knocked off the rush jet. The one thing about the one with me where I have to keep moving, I have to slide off of the last one. I just have to jump on it and then slide, because if I don't jump on it and slide, I mean, you can let the first block come down, just jump and then slide. Because by the time you shoot that one down, you won't have time, unless you caught it with a few shots coming down, you won't have time to shoot it, then jump over, and then jump over again. You will not have enough time. And you won't be up high enough that you can slide either. So, just a word to the wise on that one. That might be the thing that you want to do. Quick Man is the boss on the second part, and he pretty much tries to stay right on you, and you have to use the Gemini laser, and it's one of those fights where you would do better for him to stand right in front of you while you shoot the Gemini laser, because you can't afford for it to go around the room while he's jumping and shooting, because he's just as bad as he was on number 2. On Gemini Man stage, there's not much difference. There's a whole section where you have to use the Rush Marine, but they have batteries so that you can keep up using the Rush Marine. So it's not awfully bad. Plus, you can shoot the stuff that's under the water, so that's not really a bad deal. You're going to run up on Flashman, and it's basically based upon his room off of the second one. So if you're familiar with that, then you'll be familiar with this. You'll use the needle cannon against him as well. He'll still do the freeze shot thing like he always does. And then the bullets, like I said, just keep shooting him with the needle cannon. You'll get to the end of the stage and you'll notice you're in Bubble Man's room. And Bubble Man is weak to the Shadow Blade. Bubble Man does the same thing. Shoots bullets, jumps up, shoots more bullets, shoots bubbles, does that, and goes to the other side of the room, does the same thing. Not hard to kill with the Shadow Blade. And like I said, you can point it in any direction and it flies. Needleman stage. You're going to fight Airman first. Do not do the same thing that I did. I made a really bad mistake on the video. He shoots the wind things out like he does, and he jumps across. You're going to kill him with the Spark Blade. Oh, not the Spark Blade. The Spark Shot. Or Spark Shock. I'm not sure which one they call it. I don't know. But you just shoot it at him when you have an opening. But don't do like I did and get like over anxious and be shooting, and then you end up with your arm cannon. Which, again, you can kill him with, but it's more of a pain. Now, during this stage, toward the middle to end of stage maybe, you'll find these huge, they have hard hats on. Now, normally they're little ones that have little hard hats on, and when you get close enough to them, they pop open, you shoot them. They were on the first two games. They're a staple of the series. They're called Metals, is what they're called. But they're little ones. There's going to be two big ones that come out at certain intervals. The best thing to do on these things is just stay to the left side of the room. If they're pumping out metals onto the stage, shoot the little ones. But what you're going to have to do is, this thing's got a hard hat on. It's got like a plus sign in the middle of the hard hat. You need to shoot that to kill him. That's what you're going to shoot to kill him. You may have to jump and things like that, or you may be able to shoot him on the ground level. But you need to shoot that to kill him. If he puts out the little metals, shoot them and kill them. The only other attack he's got are these big, I don't know if they're like red or pink ball things that come out. And they come out, and they're fairly easy to dodge because they're fairly slow. So you can usually either jump, slide, whatever you need to do. As long as you're on that other end of the room from him, you'll have plenty of time to get out of the way of them. You should have plenty of time. These things should not cause you that much trouble. But there's two of them in the stage. And they do the same thing. Not hard to kill. Also, there's a part in this stage where you have to use the rush jet. And it's like the Marine part where you have to grab the batteries to get to the end of the stage. You have to grab them. Otherwise, you ain't going to make it. And you'll have to jump off of rush to get some of them. But what you'll do is you'll just go back to the select weapon screen, and you'll come back and you'll deploy rush again, and you'll go. So that's another thing. Every time that you switch weapons, if you're on rush and you switch a weapon, if you're on the rush jet or in the Marine, rush will go away. So if you're like on the jet and you switch weapons, you'll fall. The Marine, you'll fall wherever you're at. It's not really a problem, but you do have to remember that not to switch weapons when you are on rush, and to recall rush. The rush jet, for instance, and the Marine, you do have to go back. You do have to go back to the weapon select screen to do that, to be able to call him back out. Because he has to be off the screen. The boss at the end is going to be, obviously, Crash Man, who is the only one that's left. You're going to use the hard knuckle against him. He does what he does last time. If you jump, he shoots. If you shoot, he jumps. Best thing to do right here is, unless you have the hard knuckle down to a fine science to where you know what you're doing with it, I would suggest getting as close to him as you can when you fire it off. You may take hits, but your hits will do more damage than his will. So you will be able to kill him before he will kill you. Now, you fight Proto Man again in a slightly smaller, elevated area than what was in the Hardman stage. You'll fight him again. You'll shoot him again. Then Wily will do his whole thing with he'll get in his little flying saucer like he does in every game. He'll step out and he'll do his eyebrow thing, and then he'll get back in his little capsule and he'll fly to his fortress. And then you'll start that. The first Wily stage is not very hard, and it's really not very long. And there's really nothing to note on it. It's basically kind of an intro. I mean, you can make it longer than what it has to be, but it's not that long. You get to the boss, and you're in a water room with a thing that's going across the top, and it shoots out turtles. And you got to watch out because everything from the sides and from the bottom are shooting like little tornadoes, and they'll push you. They don't necessarily do any damage or anything, but they push you around. So you have to watch out for those. This thing at the top, it releases turtles. You can kill the turtles with your arm cannon, but the best thing to use against them is the Shadow Blade, and they do get faster. So once you kill the first couple, they get faster and faster and faster. I think there's only a few of them though, so it's not that bad. It's not that bad. The good thing, like I said about the Shadow Blade, you can kill the turtles while standing in like one spot, because you can fire it whichever way you want to. Also, those little tornadoes I talked about, if you shoot those with the Shadow Blade or with your arm cannon, it will deflect. They will deflect off. So make sure that that's not in your way when you're trying to shoot at them. Otherwise you'll miss a shot. Wily 2 stage, again, these stages are not that difficult. They're really not. They're some of the shortest and the easiest in the games. The boss of this stage is the Yellow Devil, or the rock monster, whichever one you want to call him. He's on almost every game. He's the one that when he comes in from the left side of the room, and he pieces together from the left side of the room to the right side of the room. You have to jump and slide. You have to figure out the pattern. 2 weapons will hurt him and will kill him. You can either use the hard knuckle or you can use the Shadow Blade. A little bit harder to hit him with the Shadow Blade, actually, in this instance. It's usually easier to use the hard knuckle. But you have to jump up when he's fully formed and throw it at him so that it hits him in the eyeball when he opens up to shoot. If you're confident in your ability on him, you can probably jump and you can use the hard knuckle. If you're not really confident, you may want to try to use the Shadow Blade, but again, it's still hard to hit him. It's still difficult to hit him even with that, because you have to hit him when the eyeball's open. The third boss is a clone of Mega Man. It's like on the first one where you have one up top, one in the middle, and one down the bottom. You have to figure out which one is the enemy, because after a minute or two they'll run back and forth, they'll all shoot at you, and then they'll get back on the teleporter and it'll switch. So it may be the middle one the first time, the top one the next time. You have to try to shoot. The best thing I can tell you to do here is to start on the bottom. If that's not the one that time, then go up to the middle. Most of the time he hangs out on the middle or the bottom part, so most of the time those are going to be the 2 that you're going to need to focus on. And if you shot him on the bottom the first time, try shooting him again when he reappears, because sometimes it's the same one and sometimes it's not. But hey, you didn't lose but just a couple of seconds of firing, because I mean they go through them, but you just lost just a couple of seconds of fire shot, not much. So the best thing I can tell you to do, keep the arm cannon and just use it. You probably have to use an E-tank, but just keep that arm cannon, just use it. That's the best thing to do in that situation. On Wily Stage 4, you just go down a few screens and you end up fighting the 8 Robot Masters again. The only thing I'm going to add is that the Needle Cannon is strong against Snake Man. That's the only thing I've got to add. Don't really know why you don't have a weapon. You're supposed to be able to use the Spark Shock against Snake Man, but for some reason that doesn't work and the Needle Cannon works. I'm not really sure. I don't really understand the comprehension of, because you have to have the Surge Snakes to help against Gemini Man, and then the Gemini Laser to help against the Needle Man, and then Needle back on Magnet and Snake Man, which it's just a really odd thing, but it works. So I'm not gonna go on any further on that. There's no boss at the end of that level. You go to Wily Stage 5. This is where you get a lot of your power-ups and stuff back. Be very cautious as to what you get back, because while you've been using your powers, they drain and they don't refill after each Wily stage. So you may have some stuff that's drained, and you may need it because you may need it for those other 2 fights, because you got 2 fights left. There's going to be this thing come across. It's called a Pinbot. And the first thing you're going to notice is it comes across with legs and puts them down and picks it back up and moves. And it does like that. It's really slow. It's really easy to get around. The first thing I find out is there's a gun underneath there that shoots stuff. Best thing to do is just pick the Spark Shock thing and just jump underneath and just start shooting at that gun. Just jump a little bit and just shoot that gun. Shoot it until it's gone. Now the best thing to do is, that's going to eliminate that part. It's going to make a second part. There's now going to be energy shooting from underneath that vehicle. So instead of trying to dodge that, the best thing I can tell you to do is get on the Rush Jet, put yourself level with Wily, where his little capsule is, and just fire away. And if he moves up, you move up with him. Just keep moving and firing, because you should have enough Rush Jet energy to shoot him down. Once you kill him there, you'll go through another stage. Now this next stage, it's just like the stage before. There's going to be power-ups that you need to grab before you fight him. Now when you fight him this time, he's going to be in a machine called Gamma. The first thing that you're going to hit is going to be the head. The head is the only thing that fires shots. It fires shots up and out. These things are very easy to dodge. You're going to use the Shadow Blade on the head. You don't even have to jump. You don't have to jump. People jump, but you don't have to jump. Just fire the Shadow Blades up at the head and dodge the bullets as they're coming down. It's not that hard. It's really not that difficult. Now, the thing changes and it gets a bigger head with spikes on either sides of it. Wily's up in the top part of the head, and then there's an arm that comes by. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do this. One, you can jump on the arm, jump on the platform, jump on the other platform, jump across and shoot Surge Snakes into the top of the thing, and make sure you don't hit the spikes. The spikes are a one-hit kill, so make sure you don't hit those spikes on his head. You can dump the Surge Snakes in. That'll kill him. Another route that you can take. You can, and I died doing this one time, so you may not want to do it this way. If you use the top spin, it's like almost a one-hit kill. But what you have to do is you have to jump over one of the spikes at the top and make sure that you're coming in or at an angle and hit that top spin. That's one of the easier ways to do it. Another way that you can do it is you can use the Rush Jet, go up, across, to where you are right over top of Wily. He's shooting at you the whole time, by the way. That's what makes it more dangerous, and that's what makes it even harder. And of course, that arm's still coming in and out on that bottom part of the screen, so that you can use that to jump on if you were going to. You can do this, but you have to do it really well and really accurately. Get the rush jet right over top of where Wily's at, and switch weapons to top spin, and hit top spin as you're coming down. Because rush will disappear, you'll drop, and you'll be right on top of Wily. So, I mean, you'll take hits in the process, but any of the ways you'll probably take hits in the process. But that's the ways that you can kill him, and that's the way that you can finish him off on that one. Another thing I was going to mention is, and I didn't quite do this correctly. I had streamed Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, or not 1 and 2, but Donkey Kong Country. I had streamed 2 parts of the walkthrough, which were the next videos after Mega Man 2. I was not aware of that until I started looking back. What we are going to do is we're going to finish Mega Man 1 through 6 on the reviews. Like we're doing right now. We're going to do 4, 5, and 6. Then I'll go back and get Donkey Kong Country. And then I'll start going up from there. Different things of that nature. We'll keep doing that. This is going to be out on Friday. I don't know how early it's going to be out on Friday. Friday Night Fisticuffs. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, don't know what it is. It's beat 'em ups, and we're gonna do one tonight. It's gonna be Captain America and the Avengers on the arcade. I'll probably switch between Hawkeye and Captain America on this one. I like both characters. I don't really care for the other characters. The other two are Iron Man, and I believe Vision is the other one. I don't care for either of those too well. This was a game that was ported to quite a few systems, and even when it's ported to the systems, it's still a pretty good game, and it's still a pretty good beat 'em up. So it's still one of those where even the ports are still okay. You know, they're not great, they're not fantastic, but they're good. Most games, you know, when they do port, some of them are really bad, but most of them are pretty good. So, but we'll see what we're gonna do on that later. I may put up another couple videos of Final Fantasy 1, trying to finish that playthrough. Final Fantasy 1. Have gotten a little bit behind on some stuff, on playing stuff. You know, you get stuck on a game for a while or something like that, and you don't go back and finish certain things. I try to balance playing Xbox and playing this emulator I have. For those of you that don't know what this thing is, I don't know if I've ever showed any of you. I'm going to show you now. This is what this is. It is a box. This is a box. It has like 1,200 games in it. It's got a hard drive on the inside of it. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's got a little hard drive on the inside. That's why there's a box built around it. It's like a little motherboard. This end hooks into the TV, the HDMI. That hooks into the power adapter that it has. So it's a plug. It's not very big. It's this thing right here. And not sure what that other one's there for. And I think it's got to do with something there. This is a really weird thing on the back. It's got a place for a controller of some sort and like the SD card. And this is the reset button. If you don't want to turn the machine off, but you want to reset something, That's the reset button on it. This is the main hub port. You can play up to 4 players on these, but you have to figure out what you're going to do with the controller. And I guess maybe this is where you can get more online. You probably get more games on it, but there's like 20-some thousand games on here. So not all of them work, or not all of them work great, but the majority of them do. And like I said, this is normally this is what I stream from. I have an Elgato that's up front there. I'll have to show you guys that at some point. It's an Elgato capture device. It runs from this box to the Elgato to the computer. That's where we get your stuff from. All the streams that we do on this channel, that's where they come from. Well, the ones that I do, the ones that Jim does, I'm not sure how he does his, but I know that's mine. Normally, this is the controller I'm using when I use the emulator. It's a basic Super Nintendo controller, but it doesn't say Super Nintendo on it. And for those of you that may not know, you see how the buttons are colored? On a regular Super Nintendo controller, that's not the case. The buttons are not, they're not this color. They're like a pink and a purple. This is because this is a Famicom controller. The Famicom is the Nintendo in Japan. The Super Famicom is known as the Super Nintendo in Japan. This is one of the Famicom controllers. And I've got other controllers. I'll pick those out and we'll show those to you real quick, just as a little reminder. I haven't used most of them, but for nostalgic reasons, I would use them. As a regular Nintendo controller, for those of you who have never seen one, or for those of you who haven't seen one in a while, this is what the thing is. That's a regular Nintendo controller. They send you a Sega controller. And the good thing about this Sega controller, it is a 6-button controller. You see that 6 buttons on there? That's for the fighting games and for other games. Because Sega used to only have 3 buttons. And it made different games very, very difficult. Because you only have 3 buttons. This is a Nintendo 64 controller. I still haven't figured out how to configure this to play the 4 or 5 N64 games that are on this system. I have not figured that out yet. So, also it's got a button on the back for those of you who've never seen it. And also, it's got a spot for, this was for a memory card. There's no circuitry in it though for a memory card this time. So it wouldn't do you no good to use a memory card at that point anyways, because there's no circuitry in the back of that for that. And last but not least, they gave you a, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is a PlayStation 2 controller, I believe. And you got the dual sticks down here on the bottom, and of course your directional pad. They numbered the buttons. They kept the color scheme, but they numbered the buttons for who knows what reason. I'm not sure. Instead of putting the triangle, square, the circle, and the X. So I don't know why they done that. And of course, there's the 2 buttons on the top. There's the 4 buttons on the top. So, like I said, Super Nintendo only had the 2 shoulder buttons. So that's what is brought to you every time that we make these videos. That's kind of how it's set up. You know, we set it up on the TV. We pick out what we're going to play. If it's something on the Xbox, and play it off the Xbox. If it's something that is not on Xbox that we have to play on the emulator, then I pull out the emulator and I play it, and that's where I bring you the games. So, like I said, not all games are there, not all games work. So, if you want to watch a particular stream of a particular game, and I do not have it on the emulator, which is very possible, and it's a very good possibility I may not have it on the emulator, we will try to find you something that is similar to what you wanted to watch. So, but that's all that we have for the stream for this time. Like I said, you'll join us next time for Mega Man 4, and we'll go over that one. That's probably my second least liked of the Mega Man series. It is a pain in the butt. And they originally thought they were going to release it for the Super Nintendo. It did not. It came out earlier than the Super Nintendo did. I think it was around the same time that the Super Nintendo came out, but they didn't put it on the Super Nintendo. They didn't put 5 or 6 on the Super Nintendo either. The only one they put on the Super Nintendo was number 7, and then they started with X1 through X3 is on the Super Nintendo. So those are those that are on there. So we're going to end this stream, and we'll see you when we come back with Mega Man 4.
close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. See the horizon, turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number, fueled by them. To see the horizon, turn us to thousands, and on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And sleep till I